Hey folks, it's Andrew from Gemba Red, and today we're just doing a quick PSA to remind you that if a solar power meter is measuring 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared, then that number is actually falsely high because it uses a silicone photodiode that has higher sensitivity in the red to near infrared range, particularly near infrared, and so that's what falsely inflates the number, often by over 2x. So if we instead use a spectroradiometer, that should be much more accurate. So with the spectroradiometer at the same position, we get 52 milliwatts per centimeter squared, so we get about half as much intensity as we thought we were. And so why is this significant? Well, if you remember, a lot of the original books and blogs on red light therapy that came out years ago put a lot of emphasis on making sure you have to have at least 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared. But those claims, aside from not having any peer-reviewed evidence to back them up, were based on solar power meter measurements. And so the panels that they were selling, in reality, were only delivering about 50 milliwatts per centimeter squared at 6 inches away, and not 100. This would mean, according to their own made-up criteria, that the panels that they were selling were insufficient. But of course, rather than admitting to making a mistake of accidentally using the wrong measurement device, because that might imply that they were frauds all along, they've been working to cover it up over the past 7 years. And one of my favorite excuses is that everyone else is doing it, and they're just false advertising for comparison purposes. And they seemingly even imply that they were intentionally false advertising all along, just for comparison. But if that's the case, and they knew all along that they were false advertising with solar power meters, that means what they really meant to say was that you need 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared on a solar power meter as the best intensity, and so the real intensity that's the best would have been about 50. And so all the original books and blogs, if they had accurate measurements, they definitely would have been saying, oh, you really need 50 milliwatts per centimeter squared, especially since we know influencers' criteria will always exactly match the products that they want to sell, regardless of what the science actually says. And so the brands and influencers have already proven that 50 milliwatts per centimeter squared work perfectly fine, because that was the intensity all the first generation panels were actually emitting, and no one seemed to be complaining about, it being too low of intensity. And so we need to kind of recalibrate and re-baseline our thought processes around what's the best intensity. They were referring to the best intensity on a solar power meter being 100. That would mean the real world best intensity would have been around 50. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully that helps.